This is what I want to show our viewers right now. This is a live look at some of those tactical squads. You can see the police vehicles, probably FBI officials as well, although I haven't seen any of the jackets yet. This is happening right now in Plantation, Florida. We do know that officials were at that mail sorting facility, the site in Opa-locka, Florida, about 15 clicks or so outside of Miami. Well, this is unfolding in Plantation. We do have that latest information. This is one American source right now, one American news outlet saying that a suspect is under arrest and has been taken by federal authorities. But here's a look at that site in Plantation, Florida, where those vehicles have amassed. We've got people in there, SWAT gear, I suppose would be the best way to put it. They are armed, as you can see from this aerial shot, and not sure at this point whether a suspect has been taken from a home around there or from an apartment building, but this is what is happening right now. This has taken a few days, of course, to get to this position, but if you are just joining us here on CBC News Network right at the top of the clock, I can tell you that it is being reported that one person has been taken into custody in the Miami area. This is actually in Plantation, Florida, regarding those suspicious packages. I've got Stephen D'Souza also working on this story. He is on the streets of New York where investigations continue by FBI and by NYPD. Stephen, let me ask you, has there been a sense that this was coming up through any of the investigators you spoke with? Because not a lot of information was released about the status of that investigation.
That's right. I mean, the main updates we were getting relating to the investigation were coming from politicians like New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, who are being updated by investigators as to the latest. And I can tell you another American network now is also confirming that the FBI has arrested a Florida man in connection with this. And so we'll have to wait for more details from others as this news starts to spread. But one thing that will be interesting and plays into the overall political dynamic of the story is the individual himself, what political leanings or what writings or what thoughts they may have expressed on social media. That will be something that will be analyzed quite closely, because I can tell you, Suhana, I haven't been in New York actually for the last couple of days. I've been in Georgia working on a story about the midterm elections there, and I've seen sort of the fallout of this story on a national scale and how it affects people on a very local level. And I was in a campaign office yesterday, and some people came in to volunteer specifically because they felt that the confusion and fear around this story with all of these suspicious devices was just a sign of the political times here, and they wanted to elect Democrats because they felt that Republicans were stoking so much of this fear across the country, and so they felt that it was important for them to volunteer for the local candidate in that area in Georgia. But then on the other hand, I was listening to a lot of talk radio and talking to Republicans who were expressing doubt that this was even real, that this was just a hoax. A lot of talk radio hosts, not just people calling into the shows, but the conservative right-wing talk show hosts themselves, hammering home hour after hour a conspiracy theory, saying that this is all being done by the Democrats to take other issues like that caravan off the agenda and make this all about Republicans and the president. And so a very interesting political divide, even as this story is being interpreted by voters and people on the ground. And so that's just one aspect and one dynamic we'll be looking for as we get more information about a potential suspect who's been arrested.
And let me get to that story right now, Steve, because our viewers are looking live at an aerial shot of Plantation, Florida. This is north of Miami. It's around Fort Lauderdale. We do know that investigators were at a postal facility in Opa-locka, Florida, where they believe that some of the packages originated. So this is at an auto parts store in Plantation, as I say, around Fort Lauderdale in Florida. While that continues there, and there are lots of vehicles and members of the police and FBI, you can see them jacketed there. They are armed, I can tell you that. We do know, if you're just joining us, that there are reports that one person, a suspect in this suspicious bombing story, has been arrested and is in custody of federal authorities. These people on the ground there are at Plantation, Florida, where we're hearing that suspect. There are other reports that this was a man in his 50s. Whether it is a single person operation or multiple, those details have yet certainly to come out. So this is at the infancy stage of this breaking news coming to you from Florida, and you're watching it on CBC News Network. There's also a lot of politics with this story, and we've got CBC's Ellen Morrow standing by. She is in Washington. We've heard lots of rhetoric from Democrats, from Republicans, pointing fingers about the division that exists there, the polarization, and everybody asking, there has to be a suspect come out, and there are lots of questions for that suspect. Who is this person? What is he all about, and what's his motive? What's the situation there, Ellen?
Well, so Hannah, as Steve was saying, this whole idea that this is some kind of hoax or false flag operation to change the narrative ahead of the midterms, that's something that really started popping up almost as soon as these first packages were discovered several days ago. And now we have that message really coming from the president himself. He tweeted a short time ago. I'll read you what he had to say. He said, "Republicans are doing so well in early voting and at the polls, and now this bomb stuff," the word bomb in quotation mark, happens, and momentum greatly slows. News not talking politics. Very unfortunate what is going on. Republicans go out and vote. So you sort of, in the way Donald Trump has put quotation marks around the word bomb, you basically have the president of the United States himself pushing this false flag narrative, seemingly suggesting that this isn't a real thing going on, and that it's something that instead is meant to just put focus on the Democrats and change the narrative to the Democrats' favor ahead of the midterm elections in less than 2 weeks. That's obviously an extraordinary response from the president, as his country and so many areas of the country along the East Coast and in California are dealing with what are very real bomb scares, packages with devices being sent to prominent people, including addressed to the homes of 2 former presidents. And instead, the current president, he had a message of unity on the days the packages to Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton were discovered, but that message has completely gone out the window. It went out the window that night when he began attacking the media again, essentially blaming the media for the toxic political environment that exists here, and then right out the window this morning by sort of pushing this idea that this is some kind of false flag ahead of the midterms.